Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video we are going to make some bone broth. Now, I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but the ones that I do are generally around things that I learned later in life that I wish I would have known earlier. And one of those things is how much food we throw away that can be repurposed into something else. And a great example of that is when you're making bone broth. Bone broth is a great way to use up some of that produce in your fridge that maybe is getting not quite so awesome anymore. So the celery that's getting a little rubbery, the carrots that are starting to crack and look a little bit dry. Maybe you've got some herbs and you're not sure what to do with those before those start to go bad on you. And then of course we've got all the chicken bones that we throw away, whether we had wings or rotisserie chicken or whatever. So now whenever I have chicken, I always make sure to throw all the leftover bones or carcass into a freezer bag, throw it out in the freezer, and then once I've got enough, or I got some produce that's starting to go a little bit sideways, it's time to bust out the crock pot and make some broth. One of the great things about making your own broth is you have an incredible amount of latitude in terms of what you can throw into your crock pot. The fact that there are so many wildly varying recipes for broth, if you look them up on the internet, is testament to the fact that you can be wildly imprecise with your ingredients and still come up with a pretty decent broth. And that's essentially my way of saying that this broth, I'm not claiming to be the end-all be-all broth. It's just what I've got in the house, I'm going to throw it together, and I bet it's going to taste pretty good. We'll start with the ingredients that are standard in a French mirepoix. So I've got a cup of chopped up carrot, a cup of celery, half of a white onion, quartered. Now, I don't know how much in the way of carbs any of these leak out into the broth, but of these ingredients, the onion is probably the highest carb, so if that's something you want to forego, you can. You can also use green onion, which is lower in carbs. And I've got some leftover green onion tops that I saved just for this purpose. 3 or 4 cloves of garlic smashed with the side of a knife. 3 or 4 bay leaves. And then if you've got any fresh herbs, I've got some left over from Thanksgiving, so we'll throw some thyme in there. Some rosemary. And we'll do 2. I'll throw a little bit of tarragon in there. Not a whole lot. I find that anise flavor to be a little bit overpowering. Tear off a fistful of parsley. Teaspoon of black peppercorns. A couple of big 3-finger pinches of kosher salt, sea salt. And then I've got about 2 pounds of chicken wing bones and rotisserie carcass. Then we add our water. The amount of water you add is going to be kind of contingent upon the size of your crock pot and how many ingredients you already have in there. Usually I wind up right about in that 3-quart range. Lastly, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And what this does is it helps pull some of those minerals out of the chicken bones, making this even healthier. Cover, set to low, and then we let it cook for at least 24 hours. It's a little bit before 10 a.m., so sometime around lunch tomorrow, we'll check this out. All right, it has been about 7 hours, and oh my God, my house smells so good from this. Of course, if you're doing 1 meal a day, maybe that's not the best thing in the world. But wow, I cannot wait till tomorrow to taste this. Our broth has been going for 27 hours now, and yes, this is the same shirt. I haven't been wearing it for all 27 hours, just when I'm filming. So let's do the next step with our broth. We'll start by pulling out all the bones, herbs, and veggies. Once I get as much as I can with the tongs, I go in with a slotted spoon for cleanup. And then at this point, I'm probably just going to get the stragglers with a sieve. And I'll be picking through this to get some meat chunks, probably for some soup for tonight, or maybe a chicken salad. And I'm going to use a ladle, just because I've got this fear that if I try and pour it out straight from the crock pot, I'm going to create an epic spill. And now there's little enough in here that I trust myself to try and pour this. And I've got a little over 2 quarts of broth. I'm going to let this cool a little bit before I put it into the fridge, or in the case of Wisconsin, the garage, so that it can chill and this fat on the top will solidify so that I can skim that off and save that for later. I don't get real hung up on the clarity of the broth. If you do, if you want a real clear looking broth, do a search on creating an egg white raft and you can see how to do that. Now what I will probably do is separate out the fat in an actual fat separator, just because I'd like to use that for some cooking. But now I want to taste this and see how it turned out. It's just kind of hard to screw up broth. I think now, if I wanted to season this up a little bit more and turn it into some chicken soup, that would be a pretty easy putt. So bone broth, pretty easy to do. Most of the time is inactive, and you wind up getting such an incredibly collagen-rich broth that once it chills, once you have this in the fridge overnight, it's actually going to turn into something almost like Jell-O until you reheat it. So save those chicken bones, save those beef bones, make yourself some broth. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and if you want to be notified whenever I release a new video, click that bell next to it. Thanks for watching.